Welcome to Marketplace Tech Bytes, our weekly review of some of the biggest stories making headlines across the industry. I'm your host, Lily Jamali. This week, a new round of layoffs hits Spotify. Google launches its new Gemini AI tool, and ex-Representative George Santos becomes a Cameo star. What a week. I'm joined this week by Anita Ramaswamy. She is a columnist at Reuters Breakingviews. Anita, it's so great to have you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be here. Lots to talk about.
Indeed. And we're going to start, as always, with our Bite of the Week. This is where we ask our guests to bring along a number that gives us some insight into the week in tech. Anita, what's your number?
My number is 17%, and it's a bit of a sad number. That is the percentage of the Spotify workforce that was cut earlier this week. That's 1,500 positions at the company. That's
right. And this is Spotify's third round of layoffs this year. Another round happened in January and a second in June. At this point, what do we know about why these layoffs are happening? Because user growth at Spotify has actually been pretty robust.
Yeah, it has been. And it's not unique, in terms of the broader tech landscape. We've seen cuts and cost-cutting efforts at Google. We've seen them at Meta. We've seen them sort of across the board. Spotify has done well, especially in its last quarter. But the thing is that the market has responded really well to previous layoffs. If you look at Spotify shares, they've actually more than tripled since the CEO started cutting costs. And so part of the reason why he said he did this, at least 2 employees, is that he wants to be on a more sustainable path for growth in the future. Growth numbers came in pretty okay in the last quarter. They actually were pretty good. But in North America, growth is starting to moderate in terms of premium subscribers. And it's important to remember that Spotify isn't actually profitable at this point.
Yeah, all good points. And also worth noting that Spotify exceeded expectations from analysts when it comes to operating income in the last quarter. They're indicating a positive outlook in terms of financials going forward. But then you have some macro concerns also looming large here. Spotify, as you say, is not the only big tech company cutting workers right now. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about the jargon that we're hearing from companies. We hear downsizing. We hear terms like right sizing. In fact, Spotify CEO Daniel Ek used that one this week. But now there's this thing called micro cuts. I had not heard of this. These are, I guess, the opposite of mass layoffs. Help us understand, how common are these micro cuts in big tech right now?
They've become increasingly common across the industry, especially as a lot of the workforce is being shifted from other initiatives to things like AI, which has been a really hot area. Amazon had some job cuts where they said they were going to reshuffle part of their workforce. Alphabet had the same earlier this year. And that's, these CEOs say, okay, we're going to actually be hiring in this other division, but doing sort of micro cuts right now. I think that it's emblematic of tech companies really having overhired during the pandemic. Because if you look at the overall labor market, it's doing quite well. But if you look at the labor market in tech, that's where we're seeing these rounds of layoffs. And it's really interesting to me because I think the traditional, strategy around layoffs has been do them once, do them quickly, and cut deep when you cut. But what we've actually been seeing from these tech companies is, like you said, a lot of these micro cuts that are just happening in rounds.
Do you get the sense that these smaller incremental cuts might be about maybe trying to fly under the radar a little bit?
It's definitely possible. I think it's kind of a bad strategy because then you have more headlines around, the cuts. And I think it also blindsides your workforce. I think if you're working at a company, you see, they had a round of layoffs, you kind of hope that, okay, they got it done with and my job is safe. And that's just not been the case in tech.
Yeah, well, these are definitely uncertain times for people who work in tech. But as you said, there is one growth area that we consistently hear about, and that is artificial intelligence, which is going to bring us to our second story of the week. Google launching its new AI tool, Gemini, to the public. This is Google's latest large language model. And the way that it's been described by CEO Sundar Pichai is that it will flow across all of Google's products, right? Including Bard, which is the competitor that Google has to OpenAI's ChatGPT. That's really the big story here, isn't it? Is Google too late? I mean, do you think Google has a shot at this point of making Bard a viable competitor to ChatGPT?
I think they definitely have a shot at it, but they were late to the game, even starting out. And so I see this move as more of them catching up to ChatGPT and GPT-4 by OpenAI. We're not going to really know exactly how well this model performs until early next year, because what Google did is they launched three versions of the model, from biggest, mid-sized to smallest, and the mid-sized model is what they're actually incorporating into Bard. The most powerful model they say is going to be incorporated into Bard early next year. So that's what, I'm really looking forward to watching when people start actually using the product. Are they, seeing that it's better than ChatGPT on a daily basis, better than GPT-4, which is the subscription, the paid product that people are paying for from OpenAI?
Yeah, so you have these tiers, and for now, this Gemini is only going to be released in English, so more to come in terms of that ultra tier at the top of the list, as well as other languages. Google says Gemini beats ChatGPT 4 in 30 out of 32 benchmarks. It's pretty clear who they are targeting, who's got the target on their backs here, right?
It's clear competition, and it's because Google was sort of caught on the back foot being a bit late to this, despite already having AI capabilities in house. We saw earlier this year where they consolidated their two teams that were working on AI to have more of a consolidated strategy moving forward, because OpenAI was really putting pressure on them in terms of the tech. But one thing that I saw that was interesting was I was reading from the MIT Technology Review what they thought about the new model, and they were a little more skeptical. They said that it does perform better on a lot of these metrics, but not by a lot, and that a lot of the model's capabilities aren't really anything substantially new that we haven't seen before. So I think it's a big move in terms of, Google kind of catching up to the competition. But the bigger question is, where are they going to go from here, and what capabilities are they going to add above and beyond that are actually better than GPT-4?
How much of an opportunity do you see the team in Mountain View looking over up in San Francisco at OpenAI, the disarray in the boardroom there and all the drama there last month? Is this an opportunity?
I think it could be. I think that OpenAI is still really strongly positioned, though. With all the chaos at the end of the day, they still ended up sort of right back where they started, with a little more change to the board and the governance structure. Microsoft is still supporting them in a really big way. So in a funny way, it's almost not a battle between Google and OpenAI, but it's a battle between Google and Microsoft to see who's going to win. And both are incredibly well resourced.
That's right. And resources are really the name of the game if you're going to try to win the artificial intelligence race. Certainly, Google has a lot of them. We're going to move on to story 3. Finally, he was expelled from Congress. Now George Santos is a star on Cameo. Santos has reportedly made more money in 48 hours this week than he was making in Congress. Pretty unbelievable stuff. Anita, all I can say about this story is that the internet works in mysterious ways sometimes.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I think it's completely wild that in just 4 days, he was able to outdo his congressional salary. And I think originally started charging $75 per video, but there was so much demand that now he's able to charge like $400 per pop. And I thought this was hilarious that Senator John Fetterman paid him basically to troll to troll Bob Menendez about his ethics record.
Yeah,
so even
from
people
New Jersey.
in Congress are kind of getting caught up in the whole Santos drama.
Yes, they are. And here I thought, by the way, that Cameo was dead. I actually read like a multi-thousand word piece on this in the New York Times not too long ago, and I guess I was wrong about that.
It's really interesting. So Cameo's CEO has even come out and said and given some interviews saying that Santos's appearance has been one of the strongest celebrity debuts on the platform. And he compared him to like Sarah Jessica Parker, Bon Jovi, some of these really big mega stars that helped propel Cameo in the first place. So it's interesting to see that somebody like George Santos has captured so much attention that now people are talking about Cameo again.
Wait a minute. Is he on the A list now? Is this what's happening?
Maybe. According to the Cameo CEO, he is.
Well, Cameo put out a TikTok this week saying not even they had this on their 2023 bingo card, which I think kind of says it all. Anita Ramaswamy, columnist at Reuters Breakingviews. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Lily.
And thanks to all of you for joining us on Marketplace Tech Bytes Week in Review. Jesus Alvarado, who has been on overtime meme duty this week, produced our show, and I am Lily Jamali.
This is 8 p.m.